This week, Siskel and Ebert review, Al Pacino and John Cusack trying to keep a triple murder from tearing apart their City Hall. Wildman Adam Sandler takes the PGA by storm in Happy Gilmore. Plus a look at the surprise hits and misses in this week's Oscar nominations.
There's 4 deaths. They're connected. That's all I know. That much I learned.
And that's all I want to know.
Just trying to circle the wagons here, John.
Circle the wagons? Who do you think you are? Some gumshoe in a dime novel, loose cannoning around the city?
Al Pacino is the mayor of New York City, and the death of a child threatens to tear the town apart in City Hall. One of the new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert, including a comedy with Adam Sandler as a goofy golfer, and an upcoming film about the war between David Letterman and Jay Leno. And we'll also take a look at what's missing on the just-announced Oscar list. I'm Gene Siskel with the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Our first movie is City Hall, and it stars Al Pacino and John Cusack in convincing and interestingly textured performances as the mayor of New York City and the young man from Louisiana who is his deputy. As the movie opens, an off-duty detective has gotten involved in a shootout with the nephew of a mafia boss. Both are killed, along with a 6-year-old boy caught in the crossfire. The mayor ignores his deputy's advice and insists on speaking at the child's funeral.
To make a better place to live. Is that too much to ask? Are we asking too much from you? Is it beyond our reach? Because if it is, then we are nothing but sheep being herded to the final slaughterhouse.
Another key character is the political boss of Brooklyn, played by Danny Aiello. Here he has a secret meeting with the mafioso boss, played by Tony Franciosa. The idea is to frame the dead cop.
You ever heard of a cop with $40,000?
Yeah.
Was it crooked?
No.
The mayor and the Brooklyn boss are close, too, and have been horse trading on a new construction project.
Just because this kid thinks he can elect you president, you're going to forget who got you here.
I don't forget anything. You're developing a short memory, Frank, or a very selective one. You want me to refresh it for you?
Cusack suspects some kind of a shady deal has been made, maybe involving the mayor. Pacino tries to deal with his charges. He's a man who can see a broad area between right and wrong.
There's black and there's white, and in between is mostly gray. That's us. Now, gray is a tough color because it's not as simple as black and white. And for the media, certainly not as interesting. But it's who we are.
The good things in City Hall are so very good that it's a shame the whole movie just doesn't live up to them. I admired most of the performances, and I liked a lot of the dialogue, which is colorful and literate. But there are a couple of big flaws, one being the lawyer for the dead detective's family, played by Bridget Fonda. Her character and plot line are not at all necessary, and they drag the movie down. Another is that the movie falls in love with the Pacino character, and so it fudges on him at the end. They're just afraid to make him look like a really bad guy. And the third, really unforgivable element is a cornball closing scene showing young Cusack running for office. It plays for all the world as if somebody got cold feet and decided to tack on a phony happy ending.
Roger, I had the same reaction to the picture. There are 3 of the finest screenwriters in Hollywood listed in the credits for this picture, and that's a warning sign. Nick Pileggi, Bo Goldman, and Paul Schrader. That means you're going to get a picture with a lot of great dialogue. But these guys are used to writing their own pictures, and that means that they didn't have a convincing storyline. It's all cobbled together, thrown together.
And you know, uncredited is Frank Pearson, who came in and rewrote the whole thing later, and he's also
They
one
don't
of the
have
best.
a straight narrative line.
Too many people being thrown at the same problem.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Okay, next movie, and it's already been making headlines. It's called The Late Shift, the new made-for-cable movie about the big money, bigger ego battle between David Letterman and Jay Leno for the succession to the throne of Johnny Carson. And although the advance word on this picture, some gossiping, has been less than thrilling, wow, I enjoyed this picture a lot, in much the same way I enjoyed Bill Carter's wonderful book upon which it was based. Here's an example, as David Letterman is informed by his NBC bosses that Jay Leno and not Letterman will inherit The Tonight Show. To appreciate the scene, try to get past the fact that the actor playing Letterman, John Michael Higgins, with his red hair, looks as much like Jerry Springer as Dave.
Now, the best thing would have been for all of us here to have gone on and have done the Tonight Show. That's what we always wanted to do. And it's a real disappointment that we're not. But if it is your final decision, then you can contact my lawyer.
Letterman agrees to get an agent, and not just any agent. He meets with Michael Ovitz, at the time head of CAA, and not considered just an agent, but the most powerful deal maker in Hollywood. Ovitz is played by Treat Williams.
Dave will be offered an 11:30 show, and he will be offered it by every network. The geometry of the deal will be far larger. The studios will be in, the syndicators, the full range of the entertainment industry. We shall frame a deal that will make you one of the giants.
Daniel Roebuck plays Jay Leno, who early in the film is portrayed as sort of a loyal lapdog. He is not being well served by his fiery executive producer and manager, Helen Kushnick, played furiously by Oscar winner Kathy Bates. She goes ballistic when President Reagan's speech at the Republican convention threatens to delay a live broadcast of The Tonight Show.
There's only one person who can take me off the air, Bob Wright. I'll give you his number. Call him.
I don't need to call Bob Wright. I'll send my audience home, and then you can call him and explain why The Tonight Show wasn't on air because the news couldn't get a horse speech off on time.
Kushnick, who is one of the villains of the movie, causes more trouble for Leno when she begins blackballing Tonight Show guests who want to appear on other late-night shows. Leno gets bad press for it and an ultimatum from NBC. Dump her or he'll be fired.
You sat there on Jerry's deathbed. You said, I'll take care of your wife and daughter. I heard you say that.
I did say that. I did say that, you know, and I meant it then. But now, you know, Helen, you almost cost me this job.
My favorite show on all of TV, even more than this one, Roger, is The Larry Sanders Show, which is a biting parody of late-night talk shows. Well, there are parts, a lot of parts, of The Late Shift that can hold their own with the best of The Larry Sanders Show. The Late Shift will be broadcast on HBO beginning next weekend, and I do recommend it.
I don't recommend it, Gene. I was kind of disappointed. And first of all, this movie makes absolutely no attempt to show you what makes these people really tick. It's all surface.
No, it isn't.
It's just kind of a one-over summary of the book, the events in the book. Another problem?
I know, of course it shows you what makes you tick. You have David Letterman wants to be Johnny Carson. Jay Leno is a hard charger.
Everybody knew that before they saw the movie. I wanted more from the movie. I wanted emotions. I wanted insides.
Oh, there's emotional
The best
throughout
performance in this movie is definitely by Kathy Bates as Helen Kushnick, and there's something wrong when she upstages and is much more interesting than either the David Letterman or the Jay Leno characters. Those actors, neither one of them is convincing, neither one of them is effective, neither one of them, by the end of the movie. Now, when I saw Nixon, within 15 minutes, I believed that Anthony Hopkins was Nixon. By the end of this movie, I still thought I was looking at a Saturday Night Live sketch. Neither one of those guys came close.
The reason why you're so interested in Kushnick is someone you and I have never met and didn't know.
Oh, we did. We both met her backstage at the Leno show. The first week the show was on the air.
We don't met her in a surface way. We really don't know her, and that's why it's new information to you.
I'm saying the performance. The performance shows the emotions that's going on.
She's a better actor than they are.
And the others are not very
Roger,
good.
This is pretty compelling television, I think. When we come back, Adam Sandler plays a weirdo golfer named Happy Gilmore.
Oops. A guy who really wants to be a hockey player discovers he has a great golf long shot in Happy Gilmore, a new comedy starring Adam Sandler. The movie's plot is basically about how Happy is a nice guy who loves his grandmother and smashes in the face of anyone who gets in his way. One of the few who believe in him is a former pro played by Carl Weathers, who becomes his coach.
It's all leaving.
Get off of me!
Hey, just easing the tension, baby. Just easing the tension.
Well, ease it on someone else.
In a Pro-Am tournament, Bob Barker turns up and grows impatient with Happy's uneven playing.
There is no way that you could have been as bad at hockey as you are at golf.
All right, let's go. You like that, old man? You want a piece of me?
I don't want a piece of you. I want the whole thing.
One of the problems I have with Happy Gilmore is that Happy didn't seem very happy. He kept beating people up, throwing tantrums, and tossing people through windows. In fact, he was only marginally better than the bad guys, and a lot more homicidal. Another distraction was the movie's shameless product placement. I counted no less than eight mentions of Subway sandwich shops, including a scene where Happy appears in a Subway commercial in this movie. If you have faith in a movie, as the makers of the film, you ought to want to make your money at the box office instead of selling commercial space right in the middle of the plot.
Well, I liked it a little bit better than you in this sense, that I think that Adam Sandler has a decent movie in him. I think that, unlike, let's say, Pauly Shore or Chris Farley, who I find totally annoying, as I watched this guy, I was reminded, frankly, just how good Bill Murray would have been in this role. I mean, it's a Caddyshack wannabe is what this picture is. But Adam Sandler has a sweetness there, and I think he's making a mistake if he's going to play a mean guy. I think you ought to look at some of Bill Murray's work and see that there's a sweetness that can energize a picture.
The writing in the movie is all wrong in terms of making him such a violent and angry person.
It's not necessary.
But you know, you're hard on Chris Farley too, and you were last week, and I never got to get back to that. I think it's the writers that these guys are at the mercy of. I think Chris Farley can be very funny with the right material. He has been on Saturday Night Live.
Which, well, we're not talking about that now, but which movie have you seen him in that was good?
Haven't seen a movie that I liked him in, but doesn't make him bad.
Me either.
Doesn't make him bad.
Me either. Coming up next, the surprises in this year's Oscar nomination list. We'll try to explain some unexpected inclusions and exclusions when we come back. For the 68th annual Oscars were announced earlier this week, and there were lots of surprises. We'll try to explain them, starting with the surprises of exclusions, films and performances that were not nominated. I was stunned and very disappointed that two superb, serious-minded pictures, Leaving Las Vegas and Dead Man Walking, were not nominated as Best Picture.
We both know I'm a drunk. And I know you're a hooker.
Was you none?
I was drawn to it, I guess. I mean, that's a hard question to answer. It's like asking you why you're a convict.
The vast majority of the Academy members, the producers, the publicists, the craft workers, apparently didn't care enough to see these films about a suicidal drunk and a man on death row, as lighter fare carried the day in the Best Picture category.
You know, you're right about that, Gene. It is a disappointment because these two movies are the best that Hollywood can do. They represent the very top.
I think so.
The very top of the craft. And the fact is, the voters in the Academy, and we know this because we've seen it happen every year, care more about the business than they care about the art form and about.
What do you think of my surmise that they didn't screen the picture?
I'm sure they didn't. And of course, when two movies get that much acclaim, when they win so many critics awards, I think they have an obligation to see them, and they didn't do their job.
You got it.
This was certainly a year when some of the big year-end entries got surprisingly overlooked at Oscar time. When The American President came out last November, it was widely expected to get a lot of nominations, especially in the acting categories, but it got completely shut out except for the original musical score. Maybe its liberal slant was a handicap in an election year.
At 20%, we're 34 votes shy in the House. It can't be done.
Another movie that got in political hot water was Oliver Stone's Nixon, which won acting nominations for Anthony Hopkins and Joan Allen, but got shut out of the Best Picture and directing categories, not to mention editing, where it was brilliant. Another major oversight, both Nixon and Casino were photographed by Robert Richardson, who wasn't nominated for either one. Were there two better cinematography performances all year? I don't think so.
Well, that was great work. I think the issue on The American President may be this, and it's historical with the Academy. Romantic comedies are not rewarded. It is an art form that is not valued.
I think that's been true for 68 years at the Academy. Cary Grant never won an Oscar because everybody said, oh, it's easy to do that, and they're wrong.
Very wrong. Another surprise omission on the list, Ron Howard, amazingly not nominated by the director's branch. Maybe Ron Howard did too good of a job in Apollo 13. Maybe the directors didn't realize the film doesn't contain a single frame of stock footage, either from network TV news or from NASA's archives. Even this amazing rocket launch was created by a special effects crew chosen by Ron Howard.
Houston, we have cleared the tower in 13.
Maybe Ron Howard is just too commercially successful as a director, and his colleagues are jealous, but I really think he was robbed. I don't see how you can give it 9 nominations.
He was robbed. And you know, why was Michael Radford nominated for The Postman? It's a very nice picture, and I was moved by it. But I mean, when you compare what was really done in terms of direction, yeah,
absolutely,
it wasn't fair. Almost all of the pre-Oscar speculation assumed that John Travolta would be nominated in the Best Actor category for Get Shorty. Why wasn't Travolta nominated? Well, maybe because the picture was about Hollywood, and the movie business sometimes gets uneasy about depictions of itself. Or maybe he was squeezed out by the sentimental vote for Massimo Troisi in The Postman, whose death right after finishing the picture touched a lot of people.
I'll give you another reason. I think that Travolta may have suffered by comparison to his work in Pulp Fiction, and I think that this role plays a little bit like Pulp Fiction light. And so really, I cannot blame the Actors Branch in this instance for not nominating. I think there were 5 better performances than his.
Okay, you may be right. When we come back, more Oscar surprises, this time some unexpected inclusions, including a cute little pig.
Good heavens, who are you? Babe.
His biggest Oscar surprises. When the Oscar nominations were announced this week, no films caused a bigger stir than Babe, which got 7 nominations, and The Postman, which got 5. More importantly, they placed in the top categories: picture, acting, direction, and screenplay. In the case of Babe, which was a real underhog, this was the little family film from Australia which upset Toy Story, the year's top-grossing film.
So I go through the kitchen, across the living room. Good, good, good. Into the bedroom. Yeah. Get the mechanical rooster and bring it out to you. What about the cat? And quietly bring it out here.
The groundswell for The Postman was due to 2 things. First, sentiment over the death of its star, Massimo Troisi, who knew he was sick but kept on working and died 12 hours after completing his last scene. And the second reason for The Postman's strong showing, a well-run Oscar campaign by Miramax Films, which spent a reported $1.5 million to send cassettes to all Academy members and to buy lots and lots of trade ads. The ads obviously inspired the voters to look at the movie over the holiday season. It was fresh in their minds when they marked their ballots. When they asked, do those Oscar campaigns ever make a difference? The answer is, they sure do.
Oh, it was a brilliant ad campaign, including, I thought, a masterstroke of having a bunch of novelists come out and support this picture. Obviously, Miramax got to them and solicited their opinion. And here are these great writers. Most of the actors never finished college and out there, so they're saying, well, if they liked it, it's okay for me to vote for Best Picture. It was a masterful ad campaign, one of the greatest in history, and you bet Oscar nominations can be bought. Now my choice for a surprise inclusion. I was caught by a surprise that Braveheart led all films with 10 nominations. I thought Apollo 13 would lead, but Braveheart is also the kind of big epic scale production that gets plenty of nominations in many technical craft categories like editing, sound, and costumes. Also, let's face it, Braveheart was surprisingly good as Mel Gibson breathed new life into the medieval sword fight drama. He received 2 nominations himself, as Best Director and for producing the Best Picture. They're his first nominations. He did a very good job.
It was a very good film. And, you know, another sword play movie that came out about the same time, Rob Roy, was good. And I thought the Academy did a great job of reaching all the way back to last spring and noticing that Tim Roth was so good in that supporting performance in Rob Roy, which had the best sword fight I've ever seen on the screen. Me too.
And I'll tell you, we've said this before, but it is the villain that always energizes and makes successful an action picture. And Tim Roth is one of the best villains we've seen in the movies in a long time.
Okay, if I was forced to choose a single nomination that gave me more pleasure than any other, I think I'd choose James Cromwell's nomination for Best Supporting Actor in Babe.
Away to me, pig.
Remember, you have to dominate them. Do that and they'll do anything you want. Go, go.
This was not your typical family movie with simplistic speeches and slam-bang plot developments. It was a remarkably subtle comedy about believing in yourself and getting along with those who aren't like you. Cromwell's performance brought it this and gravity that it needed.
Well, do you remember, Roger, on our Member of the Academy show where we try and influence, last month we try and influence, do you remember who was the one who pushed for?
Do you think you influenced the Academy?
I don't know. What do you think?
Wouldn't hurt.
You got it, big guy. One more surprise inclusion for me, and it's a good choice. Mare Winningham, nominated as Best Supporting Actress for playing the title character in Georgia. She portrayed a famous folk singer, the older, more responsible sister to the flashier, bigger role of the self-destructive wannabe singer played by Jennifer Jason Leigh.
You were the one with the ambition, Sadie. I never gave a damn.
You say.
It's very rare that the more solid character in a 2-character story gets Oscar recognition. Congratulations to the Actors Branch for acknowledging Mare Winningham's fine, well-modulated performance. I love when actors reach out and find the even tone.
I like Jennifer Jason Leigh very much in the movie, too. You can't get everything, though, and I'm glad that at least this movie was singled out because it was
a good story.
A movie that had a lot of good acting in it.
When we come back, we'll take another look at the new movies we reviewed on this show.
Offering the finest in luxury service in Southern California style, adjacent to Beverly Hills on LA's fashionable West Side, the Century Plaza Hotel and Tower, a Westin hotel.
Returning to the new movies on this show that we reviewed, let's take another look at all 3. 2 thumbs down on City Hall, starring Al Pacino as a powerful New York mayor suspected of corruption by his deputy John Cusack. The film's good writing is overshadowed by too many essential flaws in its story construction. A split vote on The Late Shift, the story of the network talk show wars between David Letterman and Jay Leno. It airs on HBO beginning next week. And finally, 2 thumbs down for Happy Gilmore, the Adam Sandler comedy about a would-be hockey player who finds his true vocation as a manic golfer. Adam Sandler has a better movie in him. Go make it.
That's it for this week. Next week we'll be back with reviews of more new movies, including Before and After, starring Meryl Streep and Liam Neeson as parents whose lives are turned upside down when their teenage son is accused of murder. And also Mary Riley, starring Julia Roberts and John Malkovich, in the story of a young maid who works in the household of Dr. Jekyll and his assistant, a certain Mr. Hyde. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.